Welcome to Just Four Guys, the most realistic and oftentimes most surrealistic Beatles show on the planet. I'm Ray Whitaker. Well, today's show is one I've really been looking forward to bringing you. I mean, I enjoy all the shows I've done, but this one today is definitely one of my favorites. And it's not because I think I'm enrapturing you so, with every pearl that flows from my lips, God knows. But I happened to come across this link online several months ago that directed me toward this site called Let Him Be, which turned out to be a site for this independent film called Let Him Be. And in addition to the title, there was an 11-word subtitle or pre-title that just completely hooked me, and here's what it said. In December 1980, the world lost a hero. Or did we? Needless to say, I was all in. And considering our collective feelings about that day, I know I now have your full attention. And the trailer on the site was enough for me to, within seconds, mind you, start searching out the person responsible for this very intriguing and obviously very well thought out project. Peter McNamee is the guy who conceived of this movie, Let Him Be. He wrote it and directed it. His directorial debut, as a matter of fact, this guy never made a film in his life. He was an advertising guy. But he was completely committed to this idea, and he got it done. And when I got hold of Peter, it was like we went to different schools together. It was one of those conversations that could have gone on for a very long time. Just a great guy. A couple of Beatle fans just waxing eloquent about our favorite musical passion, and John Lennon in particular. And when we eventually got around to talking about the movie, which he was gracious enough to send me to view, and I can't say enough about it, he explained why he decided to pursue this particular project.
The movie came about. It started about 5 or 6 years ago. I was reading in the newspaper up here, one of the newspapers, they had these little, did you know kind of fact things. And one of the things that they had was, I think it was 87% of Americans think that Elvis Presley's still alive. And I thought, wow, it kind of, I thought the number was wrong, but I mean, it was, I was quite fascinated by it. And then I don't know what kind of popped into my head, but I said, well, I wondered if anybody would ever believe that Lennon was still alive. That was the kind of seed that started there. And then I gradually just started to, let my imagination run wild, so to speak. And I mapped out this film based upon. I wanted to do something. My background being in advertising, I wanted to do something longer than 30 seconds, and so the film was this perfect vehicle. And the idea was, I do the film, bunch of friends, throw it up on the internet, a la kind of Blair Witch, and forget about it. And we actually started with the film with the music before the film, because I have friends who are musicians, and I approached a number of them because not only did I want them to help me put these tracks together, but I also wanted them to appear in the movie, and of course none of them are actors. And actually the guys that you see in the movie are the same guys. In fact, Nathan, who plays guitar in the movie, plays Chuck, and Michael Blazer, who plays the vet. They're a couple of my best friends, and so we have this working project that we call Ivan, Chuck, and Dave. And so the movie began with the music, and then it just gradually went from there. And then a very good friend of mine, who's one of the producers on the movie, Carol Wright from Universal Music, we were talking one day. At the time, she was working in London for Universal, and And we just happened to be chatting, and I told her about this idea that I had, and she said, well, why don't you send me what you have? So anyway, I sent her this synopsis, and she said, look, this isn't a little documentary. This is a feature film. And I was, okay. She said, we should make a film. I said, okay. And that's how it came about.
Wow. So when she said it was a feature film, did you get really excited inside or what?
No, I didn't actually, because certainly, Ray, there's one thing saying, hey, well, let's make a film. It's a whole different ball game actually making it and writing it and putting the whole thing together. So it took us over 2 years just to find the money to make the film.
Did you have to knock on the doors yourself? Or did
God, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for friends and family, the film would never be made. I wasn't able to cultivate any kind of mainstream funding. The only additional funder that we have outside of my friends and family, we did get support from a Canadian government cultural program. I don't know if you've ever heard of Telefilm, but Telefilm is a government program that supports independent filmmakers, or filmmaking in general in Canada.
Kind of like an endowment for the arts.
Well, yeah. So we got a loan from them to basically finish it.
Now, without giving away the store, as it were, the plot of Let Him Be focuses on this young filmmaker named Tim, who receives this used video camera from his father that he got at a tag sale or something. But once he gets it, there's already a tape in there. So he decides to look at the tape, see what's on it. And he's completely blown away by what he's looking at. He's seeing this image, a recent image of some older guy playing the guitar. Guy's probably in his 60s, longer hair, granny glasses, Liverpool accent. It's one of those, no, come on. Could it be him? Looks like him. Only one way to find out. Head on up to Canada, where the camera came from, and see if it could find this mysterious older British musician. And it'd be very easy for me to tell you the entire story right now because this is one extremely well-done film dealing with a scenario that we've all thought of more than just once in our lives. What if John Lennon survived the assassination attempt? As a matter of fact, Peter included some animated proof in the movie about the night that John Lennon was killed, just as a point of reference, something that is actually available to anyone who wants to research the ballistic proof of that horrible night in 1980. And once you view this animated recreation, Peter's film takes on a whole new energy.
The whole thing with the animation of the assassination, I'm a great believer that Mark David Chapman did not shoot John. Not in a million years did he ever do that. It was impossible for him to have done it. And I kind of use the animation to reinforce that, because that animation is based upon research and what have you at the scene, and proof that is readily available. And so, for example, with I Was There, that's the whole thing around that song, and it's a kind of call to action saying, that never happened, and I know because I was there.
It's in a way like King Creole, but rock and roll says it all. It's in the way that you hear me, they're that real, words you feel. The blazing lights attract you, the rolling crowds distract you, quietly as they take you in. You'll never get a thing done, there's part of you flying. attract you, the rolling crowds distract you, quietly as they take you in. You'll never get a thing done. There's part of you for everyone. They get their cut and then they're gone.
Just want to let you know that the music you're hearing throughout the show today is music you can hear in the movie. And if it sounds Lennon-esque, and there's a darn good reason for it, and I'll explain a little bit later on in the program, that, by the way, was a song called Rock and Roll. Now, one of the main reasons I'm doing a show about this film, apart from the fact that it's wonderful and you should eventually own it, Let Him Be has yet to find a distributor in the United States, which is a crime. So I'm not only reviewing and lauding this film today, but I'm using my show as a promotional vehicle to find someone with a lot of cash to believe in this movie the way that I do, will back it and promote it like there's no tomorrow, and put it and Peter McNamee and the rest of the cast on the map on a global scale because they're all deserving of that kind of recognition. It's a modest goal, but one I believe can happen. Now, I have to mention that not only is this guy Tim, who's played by Sean Clement, a key player in this film, but his girlfriend Kathleen, who's played by Kathleen Monroe, is absolutely vital to the overall tone of the film. Tim is this ambitious young filmmaker who sees the veritable holy grail in this expose to discover who he believes to be John Lennon. Kathleen, who's also a filmmaker and the grounding force of this entire relationship, reluctantly goes along with Tim's seeming flight of fancy. But let me tell you, the shift that occurs in the film and in their relationship will leave you with an almost eerie feeling. But that's all I can say at this point because I want you to see the film.
Hi there.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Tim, and over there's my co-producer Kathleen, and we're shooting a little documentary for film school about the changing...
Been asking around here about us.
We've been asking questions about everybody because we're trying to, find out about how the old guys...
We're not interested, all right? We're not interested.
What, is there anybody else who'd like to...
No, there isn't. Now piss off, will you? Piss off. Get out of this property.
That's a gentleman named Graham Wignall, who plays Stanley Fields, companion, caretaker, and cousin to the mysterious and enigmatic character Noel Snow, the man seen in the videotape that got Tim all jacked up to go on this journey in the first place. Now, having Graham in this movie is very indicative of Peter's reverence for the Beatles, for John Lennon, and for authenticity in general. And for us, really, because even if you're not a devoted fan of John Lennon and the Beatles, Peter gives you credit for appreciating these subtle threads to the past, and specifically to a historical figure like John Lennon. Peter's reasoning for having a guy like Graham in the film made me love the movie even more because he took such pains to get it right.
From a very, very early age, they had minders or roadies or anything like that from a very, very early age. Anywhere they went, they never went alone.
Right.
And they never carried money with them or anything like that. That was always taken care of by their minder. And so, in my mind, he would have had a minder. So, but what I wanted for the movie, a real-life kicking person from Liverpool. And so I thought, well, where can I find somebody from Liverpool in Toronto? So I went online, and I Googled Liverpool, Toronto. And one of the first things that comes up was the Toronto Liverpool Supporters Club, football club. And anyway, I contacted the club, and I said, look, I'm making a little documentary about Liverpool. It's a radio documentary, and I need somebody to read some lines. But I needed to be an older gentleman, and do you have anybody in your club? He said, well, there's only 4 guys in our club that meet those kind of specifications that are, in their mid to late 60s. So he gave me the names, and I went to meet each of these guys. So get this, the very first guy I met, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you, Ray, was the original doorman at the Cavern.
You've got to be kidding me.
He was the original doorman at the Cavern.
Oh, my God. Is that the guy who actually is in the movie?
No. Wait till I tell you about Graham. This first gentleman, I forget his name, but he was the original doorman in the Cavern, and he told me all of these stories about the Beatles.
Oh, my God.
The problem with him was he was a little bit older than what I wanted, and unfortunately he was a bricklayer by trade, and had been in quite a major accident, and I needed somebody who was a lot was in better shape.
Right.
And that's when I moved on to Graham. And Graham went to the same school as John Lennon as a kid. He was 1 year above John Lennon. But hold on a second. I'm finished with Graham. Graham's father used to work with Ringo Starr's father.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Tell me about things, having some serious authenticity.
Yeah, it's just, I was stunned. And Graham is not an actor. Graham's background is, he was a maitre d' steward on the ocean liners that used to go between England and England and New York, England and America, between Liverpool or London and New York, like the Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary, and all those kind of big boats.
John Lennon's father did the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, very good point.
Yeah.
And Ray, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but one day I'll give you a list of all the cryptic clues in the movie.
Please do. Because you have to do that, because I want to get a lot of mileage out of this.
You do.
I really do. This is great.
Yeah.
He rode in from Texas. His dad held his guns. He's lied and he's cheated for all that he's won. Now he's in the White House, changing the rules. For all we have to suffer, you can thank W. Thank W. He's useless in gunfights, but Dad's sly and he's quick. He pulls the trigger, 'cause W's too thick. The shrubs are in the White House, breaking the rules. For all we have to suffer, you can thank W. thank W. With this bunch of cowboys, our kids don't stand a chance. 'Cause he's killing the cavalry, their blood's on his hands. God help your sons and daughters, and America too. For the chance to die for freedom, you can thank W. Thank W. Apocalypse merchants Don Dick W. They ride with the devil against me and you. We've got to pull together to see these times through. Peace is round the corner without W. Without W.
You gave the viewer credit to pick up on things.
Yeah, that was, and I was hoping all the time that when we were doing this, that because you have no idea, Ray, that you know what you want to convey. You know what the kind of undercurrent is, but I never knew whether I would be hitting the mark with that undercurrent. And essentially, the undercurrent in the movie is Tim's character comes from. Let me just tell you. For me, there are two kinds of people in the world. There are the me and now people, and there are the people that are more socially aware, have a conscience about things, whether it be their environment, whether it be their friends, their family. So we have these two types of people, and that is exactly what I wanted to convey in the movie, was that Tim's character was me and now. We found this guy. Let's get the footage we need, and let's go to CNN and get a bag of cash. He didn't care anything about anything or anybody. He just cared about himself and being successful. Kathleen, on the other hand, was the more conscionable, and said, no, this is wrong. And in the beginning, as you saw, she just goes along because she just thought it was just the most far-fetched thing she could ever, it was unimaginable what he thought he had found. And she thought, well, we're going to go up there for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, get this out of his system, and then we can come back and we can finish my movie. Well, we know that that didn't happen, Ray.
That did not happen. And I love the way that happened. I love the way the journey, the way she started off, and she was the moral barometer in that movie.
That's a better way of saying it, the moral barometer.
And I love the fact that she was, at first she was a little incredulous about the possibility of who it could be.
Yeah.
And then as the realization that she actually got close, then it wasn't as if she went over to Tim's side at all.
Yeah.
I mean, she, the empathy that this woman, that she showed was wonderful. She went from, incredulity to just being empathetic and sympathetic, and just basically wanted to shield this guy, no matter who he was.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that. It was a very heartfelt part of the movie. I mean, the whole movie had a lot of heart. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Barbara Baker, and people around here call me Babs. And I was born here, and I grew up in the area.
Okay. And have you lived here your whole life?
Well, actually, when I was 18, I moved to Toronto and I went to school. I went to school for nursing, and I lived and worked there for about 10 years.
Right. Was it hard to... You came back here afterwards? Was it hard to come back here after living in the big city?
Well, my mother died, and that left my father alone, and he needed some extra care and help, and so I came back here to look after him.
Right. And is your husband still in the picture, or?
I actually have never been married.
Oh, okay. Is there a man in your life now? Or?
Well, yes, there is. He's someone I'm very fond of, quite close to, and we've been seeing each other for quite some time.
And how did you two meet?
Just a couple of minutes, okay, honey? Well, that's actually quite interesting. I just finished taking a physio course. I said I was a nurse,
yeah.
And he needed some physio, and that's how we met.
Right, and he'd obviously been injured. What happened to him?
I'm sorry, why are we talking about him?
Look,
We're just trying to get a sense of the relationships that have developed here. Is he somebody who has lived here his whole life, or is he new to the area?
You know, I'm really sorry, but I have to get Sarah home for supper. Thanks. Good luck with your film.
Thanks very much.
Barbara Baker. Now, just prior to my speaking with Peter, I was reading John Lennon, The Life by Philip Norman. I still am, as a matter of fact. And the name Barbara Baker came up in the book. And I mentioned this to Peter. And his reaction endeared him to me even more because he's a tad sarcastic. And I like that because sarcasm, that's my second language. Did you know that he actually had a girlfriend by that name?
Really, Ray?
And you did know that?
He also had a girlfriend of that name, and I believe that's the same lady where he lost his virginity.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so okay. I just came across that name last night. I love that stuff. The fact that you went so far back into his past. God. I love that. All of
the character names. I'll send you a list.
Oh God, that was just because I'm laying in bed and I'm reading that. I'm like, that just made me love the movie even more and appreciate. I mean, I already like you, but I just appreciate the fact that it's the nuance. Yeah. It's not a very long movie, but you covered all the bases. I love it.
Oh yeah, I wanted it to be this. In my mind, you know, running wild. I wanted this thing to kind of almost become something like, the Sgt. Pepper's cover.
I have watched Let Him Be several times now. And with each successive viewing, I pick up on something else, something very subtle, but nonetheless historical and integral to the life of John Lennon. Now, another scene that really heightens the anticipation and wonder is when Tim and Kathleen go into town and start asking around about the local folks, without coming right out and saying, hey, you seen John Lennon walking around here? Then they happen into the local music store.
Chuck Davies was the manager of the only music store in the area. He played guitar and bass.
I've lived in this town all my life. I'm one of the luckier ones here because I have this store. If it wasn't for the store, I would have left a long time ago because there's not a lot to do here, unless you like dairy. But yeah, it's just a simple town. I played in a few bands. I like music. I went to high school, but after that I was going to go to college, but then I had, the store, and I thought I would just kick it back here, and so I've been here the whole time.
And so, big market for music instruments and stuff?
Well, it's a bluegrass town, right? So we sell a lot of fiddles. But the overhead here is low. My mom owns a building. I mean, they've owned it. My dad passed, but they've owned the building for years. So I don't pay any rent. And I got a customer that if things get tight, he helps me out. So it's a good deal.
Really? Who's that?
Just an old guy that I jam with. He likes analog recording, like not the digital stuff. And he gets vintage guitars from me and shit like that. Can I say shit? Sorry. Vintage guitars, things like that. He doesn't go out a lot, so he buys everything right through the store. So I've got the exclusive deal of supplying all the vintage. Actually, you know what? Check this out. I had to change my picks. Check it out. Can you see that? It never used to say vintage, but I just ordered a whole bunch of new ones. I do charts for him. Writing out the chord progressions. He pays me for that too, actually, which is kind of cool. Never got paid for doing that. Yeah, that's Noel. Where'd you take this?
My heart was broken long before you came. You found all the pieces, I hid all the pain. I'll hear what's in your eyes if you have to leave. Can't take no more goodbyes. Wrap your arms around me. Bangs like a hammer, sounds like a drum. When you hear your heart falling, you can't stop for anyone. I'll hear what's in your eyes if you have to leave. Can't take no more goodbyes. Wrap your arms around me. Once I am as you see. You make it make sense now. I'm here when you're with me. I'll hear what's in your eyes if you have to leave. Can't take no more goodbyes. Wrap your arms around me. My heart was broken long before you came. You're all the right reasons for me to try again. I'll hear what's in your eyes if you have to leave. Can't take no more goodbyes. Wrap your arms around me. Wrap your arms around me. Wrap your arms around me.
I mentioned earlier that the music is obviously very Lennon-esque. And it would have to be, since this movie is all about a quest to find who this young filmmaker Tim believes to be John Lennon. Now, not only did Peter McNamee write and direct this film, he wrote all the music as well. What you're hearing is Peter McNamee singing his own songs. Straight up, that is no lie. The guy Chuck, who you just heard in the music store clip, is a guy named Nathan Fleet, who was a key player in helping Peter tweak these tunes so they were just so for the film and for the soundtrack. And behind the camera, Peter and Nathan are really good friends, as are the other band members who play on the recordings and who you'll see in the movie when you eventually buy this movie and keep it forever. Michael Blazer and John Hanton, by the way. But the question looming is, who could you get to play this guy, Noel Snow? A guy who has an entire town protecting him from outsiders. I mean, there are other scenes in Let Him Be that really show the ferocity with which these townsfolk shield this guy from people like Tim and Kathleen. Really Tim, not really Kathleen. The guy who answered the call from Peter, albeit under false pretenses, and that's a story for another day, was a guy named Mark Stacer. And as Lennon impersonators go, this guy is really fabulous. I mean, they had to do some work on him to advance him in years to make him look like John Lennon would look in his mid-60s. And let me tell you, it was pretty unbelievable how this guy looked, spoke, sang, and even moved.
Prosthetically, the biggest amount of work is done on his nose. You know, to create that kind of Lennon kind of beak.
Right.
You know.
Well, and also I noticed that as it sometimes happens with older gentlemen, especially in their 60s, I mean, not all, but some, their nose tends to get a little wider.
It gets a little bit wider,
yeah.
Exactly.
And which is why when I was sitting there and I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking, you know what? He has the type, John Lennon had the type of face where that's exactly what would happen to him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm thinking, that's why it was so believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a lot of research, or at least Sean did, who did the makeup. We did a whole comparison went through literally hundreds of photographs and did a whole kind of build-up as to what... Because, I mean, the great thing is, and you know and I know, the reason why this is somewhat believable is that he never reached the age of 64. So you don't know how he would look.
Yeah.
And so, but there were some parameters. I deliberately in the beginning, and again this kind of subtle kind of nuance was, I kind of took him back to the, bed in, give peace a chance look, big bushy beard, long hair, because I thought to myself that he would go through these phases, as we all do. You know, you grow your hair long, you grow a beard, and then one day you just wake up and say, well, I don't like this anymore. And you get rid of it.
You've got to stop that smoking. It's going to kill you, mate. You've got to quit.
Well, I mean, if you done these fags all the time, I'm going to go someday, right?
Ah, Jesus. You know what?
Well, they're my fags, they're not yours, are they?
The big C can get you anytime, mate. Anytime. Just like that. Hey,
you're going to go, you're going to go.
Just remember what happened to George. Don't ever forget that.
No, I won't. Just God bless us all that we don't.
Jesus. That's all you're talking about, mate. It's not being dead that's the problem, mate. It's the dying part. You know what? I've seen you in pain many times, and you're no bloody good at it, no. You're no bloody good.
Yeah, well, we'll see how we handle the dying part. So I can handle this part right.
100%. Get that cigarette away from me. I hate that smoke.
That's all.
I'll
Look, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but I'm asking you to leave him alone.
I'm sorry, but...
Look, I love him, and I know he's a complicated man, but he doesn't need someone like you messing him up, turning his world upside down.
Okay, I think you're misunderstanding something. There is nothing going on between Nolan and I.
Oh, please don't insult my intelligence.
No, it's the truth.
Look, you can lie to yourself, you can lie to him, but don't lie to me. I see it in him, I can feel it in him, I can see it in you. And I'm asking you to leave him alone. He doesn't need this messing his world up. You'll mess it all up. Now just the two of you, just go home.
Have to give major kudos to Heather Allen, who played Noel's girlfriend, Babs Baker. It's from her, and it's from Kathleen, that the tenseness of this movie resides with. Both of them care about this guy so much. Obviously, the Babs Baker character cares because she's Noel's girlfriend. But Kathleen, who started off this journey with Tim just to appease him and to prove to him that this was not John Lennon, throughout the course of the movie gains insight that Tim never could. Tim saw dollar signs. From beginning to end, Tim was not considering the man. Whoever he was, Noel Snow, John Lennon, to him, it was a payday. It was a deal maker. But Kathleen morphed into a shield to this man as the movie unfolded. But the underlying message of the entire movie is not whether you can do something, but should you? So this movie, Let Him Be. It isn't just a movie about John Lennon for John Lennon and Beatle fans. It's a metaphor and a commentary on the unconscionable behavior and motivations behind so many entrenched in the media today. I mean, they can care less whose lives they destroy as long as they get theirs. Would it be nice to have a whole lot of money? Absolutely. But wrecking a person's privacy, their very existence in the process, ought to be a felony. I mean, you see it all the time. And you see filmmakers who exploit people's lives without a thought to the overall consequences. You see filmmakers who pander to the lowest common denominator just to make a buck. And I know I'm getting a little heavy here, but there is a point to this tirade. And my point is this. If there were more people in the world with a conscience, like Babs and Kathleen, and if there were more people in the business of making movies like Peter McNamee, who give you credit for drawing your own conclusions on a moral and intellectual level, a lot of the nonsense you shake your head at on a daily basis, it just wouldn't be there. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. So, I wish I can go into greater detail about this movie, but to do so will give too much of the tone of the movie away. I mean, I hope I've at least piqued your curiosity about this great film. If you know anyone who holds some serious sway in the movie distribution business, has got a lot of money, even if they don't have a lot of money, but they have some sway, please get behind this guy. Get behind Peter McNamee. Let's Let Him Be released in the United States on a grand scale with all the proper and expected exploitation. Please visit lethimbe.com to find out more about the film, about Peter, watch trailers and interviews with the cast and crew, and just become a fan. And if you need any detailed contact information, you can also contact me, and I'll make sure that Peter gets the message. My thanks to Peter McNamee for a great conversation. Also thanks to him forwarding me a few copies of the film and soundtrack, and for the inspiration. A first-time filmmaker with all the right intentions. What's that all about? And if you're a Beatle fan, and you speak with other Beatle fans, you inevitably compare notes about the books you've read about them. Well, Peter and I did a back-and-forth session, which I'm going to play for you right now. And then I'm going to end the show with some actual John Lennon music that I could hear being in this movie, even though the movie didn't need it. Didn't need it at all. It just conveys a similar spirit. I'm Ray Whitaker, and I thank you so much for listening to Just Four Guys.
I did, like I said, I did read a number of books on him. I must admit, I haven't read the Philip Norman book. I did read the Albert Goldman book.
Yeah, I won't, for some reason, I don't really have a real fondness for Albert Goldman.
I don't have a fondness for him either, but at the time, the Philip Norman book wasn't out.
It's very well written. I mean, I'm only maybe about 150 pages in and started it last week. It's great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But I think that, have you read The Last Days of John Lennon, written by Fred Seaman?
No.
Oh, God, you've got to get that.
Really?
Oh, you've got to get that.
It's fun. Have you read that one book, Since We're Here, There, and Everywhere, by Jeff Emmerich?
No, I haven't read that, and that's one book I'd like to get my hands on.
Great book.
But
So-
have you read? Have you also read Nowhere Man?
No.
Oh, Ray.
I know.
Ray.
I'm woefully underread in that regard.
I would say that I do know that the Fred Seaman book is out of print, but Nowhere Man isn't. Now, Nowhere Man is really quite. I was very. It was very, very sad to read that book because it really did take you inside and behind who he was. And I mean, as we all, we all have our. I mean, for want of a better definition, we all have our private lives.
Right.
But my sense is, after reading these books, is that there was a tremendous sadness about the man.
Yeah.
A tremendous sadness.
Never left him, really. I mean,
No.
it seemed like it might have gotten behind him. I mean, because obviously you've heard that interview that was recorded the day he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounded very optimistic.
Yeah. No, he did. I mean, like I said, you can sound that way, but in reality, what you're going through, and
It's true.
ultimately, the pain. I never really understood that when. I'm sure you've heard all about when he was writing Help, and he was in a great deal of pain, and I didn't. For many, and when I was young, I thought, like, what is he talking about? Pain? I mean, he's John Lennon. He's in the Beatles. I mean, everybody wants to be him. He can't be in any pain.
Right.
But
It's all relative.
well, yeah, and as you read about him, and just he did suffer a great deal.
So, Nowhere Man. So,
Yes.
so that'll be.
I would say Nowhere Man. Certainly, The Last Days of John Lennon by Fred Seaman. I'm just trying to think. There's one other book. Those two. But I have a whole. I have them all. But you can get those. I bought those on eBay. You can get them.
Yeah, I think I definitely will. Now that I have
Nowhere Man, you can get literally from Amazon. But The Last Days of John Lennon, you won't be able to. You won't be able to get.
I'll try and track that down.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, thank you very much for taking the time to speak
Ray,
with me today.
It's me who should be thanking you. I mean, I'm just thrilled, Ray, that you got it and you're as enthusiastic as you are about it. Because I must, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I've had very, very few people who have totally disregarded it and haven't got it. Very, very few. I mean, literally, Ray, I can count them on one hand.
I can't see how anybody could, so, I mean...
I need to get the movie on TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we're hoping to do that in England. And it's already been shown. I mean, get this, it's already been shown on pay-per-view satellite in Latin America. I've got emails from people in Mexico. This one particular woman would not believe that it wasn't true.
Oh, you told me about this the
I
first time we
just-
spoke. That's funny.
Well, yeah.